Welcome back to the most important edition of Who You Got for the entire UVA Cavaliers football season. The Hoos are set to take on longtime arch nemesis Virginia Tech at home, Scott Stadium, at noon. A nice convenient kickoff time, am I right, guys? I'm here with William Foshee, Stephen Mallozzi, and Jake Malasek, and these guys are going to give you their opinions on what the Hoos have to do to come away with the first victory against Virginia Tech in 16 years. It's going to be a tough matchup. Jake, let's start with you.
Since putting in Hendon Hooker, the Tech Hokies have been unbelievable. They've won 6 of their last 7 games. Their only loss coming to Notre Dame, 21-20, with a last 30-second running touchdown by Ian Book. It's honestly incredible how well the Tech Hokies have played. They've been putting on an absolute offensive clinic with their new quarterback. The past 2 games, Georgia Tech and Pitt, they've won by a combined score of 73-0. This offensive powerhouse is going to come to Charlottesville and put on an absolute show. And on the defensive end, defensive coordinator Bud Foster's last game will be played here at Charlottesville. So you think that defense is going to play really well for their last game? I think so.
Stephen, what are your thoughts?
So, you spent a lot of time talking about the offense. I'm going to spend some time talking about that defense. UVA has an incredibly mistake-prone offense. Against a hot defense like VT, holding 2 straight opponents to shutouts, which is no easy task. That's no field goals, no touchdowns, nothing in the past 2 games. Last week against Pitt, less than 180 total yards, 177 to be exact, and they got just 60 yards on 27 carries on the ground game. Now, Perk, he looked pretty good last week against Liberty, and I think our whole team looked really good last week against Liberty, and hoping we can use that as a tune-up game for this week.
Well, you talk about Liberty. I think that one of the biggest issues for the Cavaliers in that game was how slowly they started to get into a rhythm. The first half coming out of it still looked very shaky. Able to get into a rhythm offensively in the second half, but I don't think that they can do that against a team like Virginia Tech. You mentioned it. They've got to come out hot. They've got to come out fiery and ready to play. And on the opposition, Jake, you mentioned it, Hendon Hooker is an absolute monster. Coming in a sophomore, a replacement quarterback on 69 completions, 1,100 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. You can't ask for much more from a young quarterback who doesn't look young at all on the field. He's incredibly comfortable and patient in the pocket, and when he wants to run the ball, he will run the ball. And so the UVA defense is going to have to be sharp, as you said, and the offense is going to have to take advantage of the stops that the defense can make and put up some points.
Absolutely right on all of these points, guys. I think the big question for me is how will the defensive front generate enough pressure to keep Hendon Hooker uncomfortable throughout this game? 2 of the past few opponents of UVA, specifically the Tar Heels, UNC, and the Flames, Liberty, are predicated upon passing efficiency. They're high-flying aerial offenses, and we saw the UVA secondary get exposed a little bit. That started off at the beginning of the season as the strongest unit for this team, but since Bryce Hall went down and a rash of other injuries have ravaged this squad, the defensive front has been entirely crucial because the secondary itself is depleted, it's embattled. They haven't had guys with any bit of experience really, and there have been mistakes in all of these games. Even still, UVA's gutted out these ugly victories as of late against these passing offenses, and that's going to have to be the case here. The defensive front, to me, is the key for this game. So let's go through one more time, and everybody, you got to tell me who you got. Hoping for some good news here to put an end to 15 years of misery. Jake.
If this were any other year, I would say sure. Tech's going to walk in here. They're better than us, offensively, defensively. Their coaches on their way out. They're going to have a great game. They're going to beat us. However, this being the year of the Wahoo, UVA is going to win this game.
I like the optimism. Wow. Stephen.
There is no better time to pummel Virginia Tech than this week. I feel so passionately inspired by that.
This is the year.
I absolutely agree. It's a big game. It's the showdown for the Coastal. Whoever wins takes the division. And I feel like 15, 16 years, that's long enough. And I feel like we have momentum. The program of football in general is on the upswing. It's as good as it's been in years. And I think on the big stage, the Hoos take home the victory.
William, who you got?
I'm going to have to take the opposition here, guys. You look at the history track record. We already said it multiple times, 15 years without a victory in potentially the most important Virginia football game in recent history, a chance to take the division, move on to a very strong bowl game and a game against Clemson. If you'd taken this at the beginning of the season with a completely healthy Virginia team, with Bryce still in the Heisman conversation, I'd say, yeah, I like our chances any day. But Rob, you mentioned it, injuries have plagued this team. They've come out slow in many of the games recently. And while they found their rhythm, I just don't think it's going to be enough to overcome a Hokie team that as of late has been on fire. So I'm going to have to take Virginia Tech this week.
Rob, who you got? Well, let me tell you guys. I think UVA runs into a buzzsaw this week. 86 points compared to 0 for the opponent. That's exactly what Virginia Tech has done over the past 9 quarters of play. That goes back to the Wake Forest game. This team is on fire right now. Virginia, as you mentioned, they're depleted. They've been coming away with victories, still undefeated at home. But to me, the X factor here is what type of home field advantage the Hoos really get. The 12 o'clock start time on Black Friday. Save your shopping for another day. Cyber Monday's right around the corner. And come support the Hoos, because it could be the difference between winning or losing. I'm going to throw down the gauntlet to the fans watching at home and say that without the support of all of you, I've got Virginia Tech. But if the seats are packed with orange and blue, as they should be, then I think the Virginia Cavaliers get it done and end the streak, take home the Commonwealth Cup, and take home the Coastal Division. Go Hoos.